Okay, so now we're in chapter 4, which is about probability. Probability is mostly about like games and toys. It's things you don't have to really do a survey. It's not really statistics because you don't have to actually do it to think about how it's going to go. Okay, so if I flip a coin, I know it's going to land on heads or tails, and I know it's going to be on heads half the time and on tails the other half of the time. So I don't actually have to go out in public and ask a bunch of people to flip a coin for me. It's probability. I can just think it through without actually doing it. Okay, so the question, what is the probability of heads? Well, we already said it. It's kind of 50-50. And it's really 50% or 0.5. You wouldn't want to say 50-50 because probabilities are supposed to be between 0 and 1. But anyway, this is the question. What is the probability of heads? Except I'm a super lazy person and I don't want to write all that every time I want to do something. So that means exactly the same thing. Probability of heads. Probability of rolling a 7, probability of rolling a 1 through 6. Okay, so it just saves a whole lot of writing. It looks all like all fancy notation, but it's just there to save a lot of writing. And if I really wanted to save some writing, I could write over here A equals heads and B equals tails. And that's my sample space. That's everything that could happen to me when I'm flipping a coin. It doesn't say anything about, well, it rolled away and fell down a sewer grate, or it's leaning up against a wall, so it's really on the edge, or any of those things that's really not going to happen. There's only heads and tails. So then I could write PA. And then you would have to know, oh, A, what is A? And you'd have to go around and find your sample space and go, oh, that's just the probability of heads. Because you see this P of A in the book all over the place. And that's what it means, is somewhere someone has decided what A is and written A somewhere else. So, you know, usually it's better if you go ahead and write it here so I don't have to go looking for it. Oops. All right, then I have to answer this question, what is the probability of heads? And I can do it based on what I know. All right, so first of all, I already said it's 50-50, but probabilities are supposed to be between 0 and 1. So you're not supposed to say equals 50. You're not even supposed to say 50%. So you could say 0.5, or you could say 1/2. Okay, because those are numbers between 0 and 1. And it doesn't matter whether you use the decimal or the fraction. I usually use whichever's easiest at the time. Decimals are usually the easiest, so I use those a lot. Okay, so I'm on to the next one. The probability of rolling a 7. Okay, so now we've switched from coins into dice. Okay, so I have only just one die, and I roll it, and look down. What's the chances of 7? Okay, there's no 7 on there. There's like 0. Not going to happen. Okay, and the official math word for that is impossible. So when it says between 0 and 1, it includes 0 and 1, because it could be a 0 chance of something happening, and there could be a 100% on something. Rolling a 1 through 6. I look down and, oh, it's a number, oh, it's a 2. Well, that's definitely between 1 and 6. Okay, it is always going to be a number between 1 and 6. So that would be certain. Okay, so official word for probability of 1 is it's certain. It's going to happen. And then the homework just kind of asks you some. They have to give you some of the information. The probability of a lottery win, when they tell you, you read all the instructions, it's 3 in 8. Okay, so let's see, 3 out of every 8 wins. And if I won, I could just leave it there. It's okay if it's a fraction. Now, you might have to reduce it. Fortunately, that one doesn't reduce. But if I get out my calculator and I go 3 divided by 8.125, I'm not supposed to change it to 12.5%. It's supposed to be the decimal. Probability of 5 queens in a row. So I'm sitting there playing poker and someone's dealing out the cards to me. And then when I pick up the cards, what's the chance I'm going to see 5 queens in my hand? Well, that's 0. Okay, there's no way to get 5 queens because there aren't 5 queens in the deck. And then the gender of babies. Now, this really, now we know, it's always been in probability textbooks for years, but now we know, actually, it's ever so slightly more for boys, and then, it kind of works out over the years, but we're just still pretending it's the old-fashioned world where it's 50-50, so 0.5.